Good afternoon, everybody. My apologies for the fact that we start a little bit late, but as you may have noticed, we had quite a few questions during the press midday briefing. I'm very happy to be here with Commissioner Kyriakides, who will present the strategy on COVID-19 therapeutics, and I would like to invite the Commissioner to go straight into the topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, let me just start with some general comments. Over the past weeks, we have seen vaccination rates pick up across the EU. The numbers speak for themselves. We have seen more than 34 million doses delivered, a record in the last week. And by the end of this week, we have reached 200 million deliveries. At present, over 30% of the EU population has received its first dose, and for the second dose, we have reached 12%. In every single member state, large or small, vaccination centres are mobilised and citizens are being vaccinated, and the numbers are increasing. I would say that within the EU, we can now look ahead with confidence that we will be able to reach our target of vaccinating 70% of the population already in July. This is very positive news. However, we also now know that our response to COVID-19 with vaccinations cannot only be vaccinations. Vaccinations are a life-saving game changer, but they will not be ending the pandemic from one day to the other. We also cannot look past the facts. COVID-19 infections are still high in many parts of Europe. People continue to be infected and fall ill. And among those who recover from COVID-19, we know that many suffer from what is now known as long COVID. They experience symptoms of fatigue, of difficulties in sleep and concentration, and this even weeks and months after the infection is gone. Scientists tell us that it is likely that COVID will become endemic, a virus that circulates in our communities, which we will still have to deal with, like influenza or the other 3 human coronaviruses we already know about. We need to manage it, we need to control it, we need to minimize its impacts. We need to provide citizens with therapeutic solutions and choices. For that, we also need to treat the disease, not just inoculate our citizens against it, so that we can minimize the impact of this virus. Let us remember that the variants and the challenges they pose to the management of the pandemic and our vaccination strategy. Even after the vaccinations, the virus circulating, people will need to be treated. While we now have 4 authorized vaccines in the EU, there is 1 authorized medicine, remdesivir. Our strategy on COVID-19 therapeutics aims to change the situation. We said we will leave no stone unturned at the beginning of this pandemic, and the therapeutic strategy that we are presenting adds another stone to this COVID-19 response. It's crucial that alongside vaccines, we also step up our work on therapeutics, and we will bring the different strands of our response together to speed up recovery, to reduce hospital stays and save lives, to help those who are experiencing long-term effects of this disease. This is taking a major toll on people, as many of us already know. I have set a very clear goal. We will aim by October to develop and authorize 3 new effective COVID-19 therapeutics that can have the potential to change the course of COVID-19, and another 2 possibly by the end of the year. This is ambitious, but it is feasible, and it is necessary. We have learned over the course of the past year that by working together across the EU, we are able to achieve real results, to bring about change for our citizens, and to deliver what is expected from us. To do so, our therapeutic strategy will kick off a series of actions addressing the entire life cycle of a medicine, looking at boosting research and large-scale clinical trials across the EU, scanning the most promising therapeutics, facilitating the timely authorization process, ensuring industrial production, and securing equitable deployment and ensuring fair access. Let me give you a few specific examples of where the therapeutic strategy will allow us to have a stronger effect compared to one-off uncoordinated actions today. Firstly, we have to know what promising treatments are out there. So we set up a therapeutics innovation booster to accelerate research and bring results to market. We will also carry out a comprehensive scanning exercise, building on the 57 potential therapeutics whose manufacturers have been in touch with the European Medicines Agency already. On the fact of the intense research and scanning, the European Medicines Agency should be able to start 7 additional rolling reviews by the end of the year. And we're not starting from scratch. But our experience with vaccines has shown, once the difficult research and clinical trial stages are passed, that manufacturing capacity can potentially be a bottleneck. This is why we will support flexible EU manufacturing and access to ever-warm industrial facilities reserved to produce for us, with the first funding tranche of €40 million under the EU FAB project, which is part of our HERA incubator. Finally, we also want to make sure Member States have equal access to these medicines. By the end of the year, we plan to conclude a further 3 joint procurement of COVID-19 therapeutics. We are looking into the option of also using advanced purchase agreements, as we did for vaccines, to maximize our impact. These are a few of the points of our strategy, which, going beyond COVID-19, is also part of our foundations for our future, biomedical preparedness, and prepare the ground for our new authority, HERA, to structurally take over once operational.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner. We're now ready to take your questions, and the first question is for Iana Kelly. Iana, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you to the Commissioner for speaking to us today. My question relates to a statement from the European pharma trade body EFPIA today, who warned that waiving patents on COVID-19 vaccines would, quote, remove incentives for companies to continue research into new variants, new diagnostics, treatments, and vaccines, end quote. I wonder, my question for the Commissioner is, does she share that fear? Thank you.
Well, I just want to pick up that I also followed the press briefing earlier on today, and I know this was extensively discussed and answered, and I will just repeat what has already been said, that as President von der Leyen has said, in fact, this morning in Florence, we are ready to discuss any proposal that address this current crisis in a pragmatic manner. For the moment, we stress that the important thing is for us, as being the region of the world that exports vaccine on such a large scale, that we ensure that vaccines reach all the corners of the globe as soon as possible. As we know, no one is safe until everyone is safe. So we ask other vaccine-producing countries to allow the exporting of vaccines to the world and avoid measures that disrupt supply chains. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would probably also invite you to take a look at this topic, which has been discussed extensively in the press midday briefing, and you will have there further input regarding our views here. Pascal Verdeau.
Oui, bonjour Madame la Commissaire, vous m'entendez?
On vous entend. Vas-y Pascal.
Oui. Oui, alors ma question porte sur la recherche sur les traitements et notamment les antiviraux. On a le sentiment, Madame la Commissaire, que cette recherche a pris du retard depuis un an, qu'elle a été un petit peu le parent pauvre, au détriment d'ailleurs de la vaccination. J'ai d'ailleurs un exemple, puisque vous dites que vous voulez booster la recherche. Il se trouve que l'Institut Pasteur de Lille qui est très réputé, vous le savez, travaille sur une molécule relativement prometteuse qui permettrait d'inhiber la réplication du virus et qui pourrait fonctionner sur les variants. Et cet institut a toutes les peines du monde à obtenir les autorisations de passer en essais cliniques, à obtenir l'homologation des traitements, qui est un point que vous cherchez à développer. Alors, selon vous, qu'est-ce qui explique encore une fois ce retard? Et puis une petite précision peut-être sur les 3 médicaments que vous avez cités. Est-ce que vous pourriez nous donner, pour octobre, là, nous donner le nom de ces molécules et de ces médicaments? Merci.
Merci, Pascal.
Well, thank you so much, Pascal, for that question, and I'm so glad you asked it, because this is why this therapeutic strategy is such an important part of our COVID-19 response and what we're presenting today. This is exactly what you touched upon, the importance of good work that is already happening, the importance for us to bring it together, the importance of us to join clinical trials across Europe, and really to use to pool all the resources in order that we can move as quickly as possible from the research side to the production side to, and you mentioned this, to seeing how we're going to move more quickly for safe authorization and move to reach citizens to have therapeutics as quickly as possible. So this is exactly I would say, the epitome of what we want to do through our therapeutic strategy, understanding that this is a strand of the COVID-19 response, because I think we would all recognize that the important, I think, emphasis has been vaccines. And it's understandable, because they're the game changer. They will be the exit out of this pandemic. But we also now know, and as I mentioned in my opening remarks, that many, many people will still get COVID, and many people suffer from long COVID. So it is important that we have access to therapeutics, and that these therapeutics reach production and citizens as quickly as possible. Now, in terms of the names, if you'll excuse me, because if I may, there are already 3 treatments under rolling review by the European Medicines Agency since the beginning of the year. And among these, I can mention 3. Are the monoclonal antibodies, the Regeneron antibody combination, the Celltrion monoclonal antibody, and the monoclonal antibodies from Eli Lilly. I will also say that there are 57 COVID-19 treatments in development that have already received scientific advice from the European Medicines Agency, including small molecules and monoclonal antibodies and antivirals. So what we do is want to really pull. We've seen what science can do. We have seen how quickly you can reach safe and effective vaccines. Let's pull it together now at the European level for safe and effective therapeutics.
Thank you. Catherine Fior, please. Catherine.
Hello. So, yes, thank you very much, Commissioner, for all your work on this issue. Just a question about, I'm afraid again, about the TRIPS waiver. The responses we've had from the Commission so far have been from the trade side, saying that the current view is that the problem of access would not be resolved by waiving patent rights. I'm just wondering, is there a different perspective from DG Health on this matter? Would you put certain concerns ahead of others compared to DG Trade? Is there a discussion? Are you able to tell us about that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I think a lot has been said during the press briefing, but I think the Commission wants to add one word.
Yes, I'm not. I've watched the press briefing. I've seen, of course, the understandable great interest you have in this. But you know, I'll speak from a public health perspective, and from a public health perspective, from the beginning, we have left no stone unturned in tackling this pandemic. From the beginning, the EU has advocated a multilateral approach to ensure that we reach provision of vaccines everywhere, and that's why we have key initiators of the ACT Accelerator and through COVAX. So I'm going to say, not going to repeat what has already been said. I think it's important that we are pragmatic, that we're open to discussion. But if I may, so that we don't, I don't want to lose focus of why I'm standing here today. And today I'm here to share with you another very important aspect of COVID-19 response, which is a therapeutic strategy, which may not appear to be as much of a game changer as vaccines have been. But if you speak to people with long COVID, you'll understand that we are giving citizens another sense of perspective and hope when they're dealing with this disease. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Samuel Petrequin. Samuel, je t'en prie.
Oui, bonjour Madame la Commissaire. Une question sur le joint procurement. À ce stade, est-ce que vous avez eu des retours positifs de la plupart des États membres qui sont prêts à s'engager dans la démarche? Et j'aimerais savoir quelles étaient les leçons que vous avez retirées du précédent joint procurement sur les vaccins et qu'est-ce que vous allez mettre en œuvre dans les négociations avec les fabricants de médicaments pour éviter que des retards tels que ceux qu'on a connus lors de la phase initiale du déploiement des vaccins soit répétée en la matière de médicaments. Merci.
On your first question on the joint procurements, there is great interest already from member states who we have been discussing on the issue of joint procurements for therapeutics. And it's something that we will be following up and discussing with each member state if they are interested. On the lessons learned from the vaccine strategy and moving into the therapeutic strategy, this complementary, I would say, two strategies for COVID, and they really come together. I go back and I always say that what we have learned is that the EU vaccine strategy is a very powerful example of a European collaboration and solidarity in action. And that is, I feel, the greatest message that we can take forward with the therapeutic strategy. And we have secured almost 2.6 billion doses for European citizens. So we have managed to reach safe and effective vaccines in very quick record time. We had production and manufacturing challenges at the beginning, but now, and I gave you the numbers, more and more people are vaccinated every day and more vaccines are delivered every day. So what we are now doing in the therapeutic strategy, and I said this in my opening remarks, is having seen how the vaccine strategy developed, is addressing every part of the life cycle of a medicine. So we're looking at the research, we're looking at how we move that to clinical trials, that to production, ensuring that we have the manufacturing capacity, how we have the authorization be as fast as possible so that therapeutics can reach citizens. So it builds on our experience from the vaccine strategy by addressing the whole life cycle of the medicine, of a medicine. And the objective is one, as with vaccines, to reach citizens as soon as possible after they're authorized.
Thank you, Commissioner. Carlo Martuscelli. Carlo, go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. This is Carlo Martuscelli from Politico here. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned that there's only one approved medicine, remdesivir, but we also know that there are drugs that work, like dexamethasone, as well as monoclonal antibodies. I wanted to know, could it be the case that we need to do more with the drugs that we already have? And then I had a second question, which was, I just wanted to know where we were at on the joint procurement of monoclonal antibodies right now. Thank you.
We're always looking, thank you for the question, we're always looking, of course, for effective treatments. And I will say that so far we have also had joint procurements for a number of medicines which patients need when they're in ICU. That has been an ongoing situation that we have had. In terms of what we have now, with this therapeutics strategy and innovation, it will be able to have, for us, through our scanning process, to have a more complete overview in order that we can identify those promising candidates that you mentioned, and where investment is needed so that they can reach patients faster. It's very important to also say that, yes, at the moment we only have one treatment. Only remdesivir has received conditional market authorization, but our aim through the therapeutic strategies, I said, is to move as quickly as possible in order to bring more to the availability of patients as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have more questions? A follow-up from Carlo. Carlo, go ahead.
Yes, sorry. I just wanted to ask about the monoclonal antibodies joint procurement, if there was some news on that. Thank you.
I think that we have, with monoclonal antibodies, we launched, there are special contracts now being signed. I think the last one was the beginning of April, with all interested EU member countries, I think also including the UK. So they are now being signed between Roche and I think it was 37 member countries, including the UK, on this. This is where we are now with that.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do not see any more questions, so thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Stefan.
And all stay healthy, please. Thank you.